Welcome to That Annuity Show, the podcast that will make you an expert in explaining annuities to your clients. Give us 30 minutes each week and we'll shave hours from your client presentations. Now, here's your host, Paul Tyler.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of That Annuity Show. Bruno, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm glad you're now an official co-host, and look forward to having you on a lot of these discussions and adding your perspective. You're coming to us from
Canada, and an honor.
And you're coming to us from Canada, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
recently, yep.
New job, new role, same locale, correct?
Correct. Recently moved, and very excited about my new role, and of course it's very topical for the podcast. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, well, Ramsey unfortunately couldn't be on here. He's actually traveling. He's been traveling a lot, so this is one of the few episodes in a long time that he's missed. But hopefully, have him on back next week. Today, listen, we got a really great guest for you, and our guest is Martha Shedden. You may have heard of her, and I actually got to know her as she was kind enough to invite me on as a guest of her podcast. And Martha's got a really interesting, life story, where she was, how she got into this business. And currently, she is co-founder and president of NARSSA. Martha, did I say that? NARSSA?
That's what we refer to it, yes.
Yeah. And so tell us about it. Tell us about your organization. Tell us about who you are. What do you do?
Well, we, in a short statement, we educate and train financial professionals on Social Security and claiming rules and strategies so that they can help their clients make the optimal claiming decision. And I can back up a little bit about how I got started. Back in I have.
How did you end up in this crazy world of ours?
It is crazy. The story is crazy. I trained as a civil engineer. I was working as a civil engineer back in 2011. I did that for about 32 years. And a financial advisor that I know here locally asked me to help him with a project he had on Social Security. I started reading books and researching. I'm right in the middle, of the baby boomers. And I was so shocked at what I didn't know, what I didn't understand, how much money is at stake for our lifetime amounts. And so I became quite fanatical about it. And I decided to go through the Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor program. I had the opportunity to teach an online course on the basics of Social Security, which led to further courses. And that was for mostly for CPAs. So I did that through 3 different providers. And that's how I met my current co-founder and business partner, Michael Rosedale, who's a CPA in New York, and I'm in California. And we founded NARSSA in 2017. He saw the need, He saw the need, and he saw the opportunity for tax professionals to use this as an addition to their services, because the way I had started my own business, and what I was doing was offering client analyses for a fixed fee. And that seemed to gel well with the tax profession as another service they could offer. And it has expanded beyond that. So we created the 5-module training course. We are very unique in that the 5th module is training using our software to do the client analyses. So someone who goes through the course, passes the final exam, then is an RSSA, a registered Social Security analyst, and they are equipped with our support, to help their clients with that claiming decision.
Got it. And just since you're so focused on this, and question around trajectories for client conversations, and please correct me if I'm wrong. We're in the middle of Medicare open enrollment. We sell Medicare supplement insurance, so we're starting to get those calls, and there clearly is part of the population that sort of starts that retirement conversation with healthcare because people work until they're 65, then they must file, and that sort of triggers a lot of decisions they haven't made. Some think in advance, some retire early, need to start retirement early, or planners. Social Security seems like a very critical track. The other direction is housing. I got this big house, my kids moved out. Where do I live? And that sort of says, well, what are my expenses? How do I cut my costs? What do I do with my house? Where do I put the money? Are those the three primary vectors for retirement planning? Where does Social Security fit? Is that the Social Security the starting point for 80% of the decisions, 90%? Do you have a sense?
I do. I strongly feel personally it should be the very first decision. We're eligible at age 62. With the technology we have, we can help people start planning for retirement in their 50s. Social Security, to me, is like an annuity. It is a guaranteed monthly amount with a cost of living adjustment. We've been paying into that program all of our working lives. And that is something we can build all the other retirement pieces around. There's not too many other, unless you have defined benefit pensions. But it is smart to get that set. And then if you're trying to delay collecting, what other funds, what other assets can you use? So it's a puzzle. Bruno and I were talking about that. It is a very, very tricky puzzle to set up those lifetime income streams, and so that you are withdrawing from your funds, possibly using equity in your home, Paul, like you mentioned, to create the most tax efficient level of finances. People are looking for that security, that monthly check, and that security that they're going to be okay throughout the retirement years. So I feel it's really the starting point.
Wonderful. I mean, if you were to start, let's say, with a very basic case, 65-year-old couple, they want to retire, they have some assets, and to Paul's point, I mean, they all, think about their housing, healthcare, and all of those other very important buckets. How do you frame Social Security in terms of the big considerations? You mentioned like money you kind of leave on the table, that inflation protection. What are those major considerations? Or in other words, how do you frame the problem for them in terms of making that decision on when to elect Social Security?
Well, I think a lot of people do not realize how much money is at stake over their lifetimes. That was the biggest thing that hit me when I first started learning about it. I mean, the average recipient this year will receive about $20,000 a year. They live another 20 or 30 years. It's $300,000 to $500,000, $600,000. We commonly work with couples who are collecting in the millions. So it should be thought of as an asset. It is many people's, it's the bulk of many retirees' income in retirement, and it's often more than they may even have currently in their investment portfolios. So that claiming age, especially with couples, Bruno, you mentioned that, couples need to plan this decision together because there are opportunities for spouses. If one has a significantly lower base benefit amount, they would be collecting based on their spouse's earnings rather than their own. They would collect the higher of the two. And all spouses are eligible to collect the spousal benefit. That's up to 50% of your spouse's PIA, their base amount. So the other critical aspect for couples, and this comes into, life insurance, is that survivor benefit. The survivor of a couple inherits the larger of the two benefits. So really critical for people approaching their 60s to plan for this. I can't emphasize how you need to plan for it early. It's commonly, the full retirement age is between 66 and 67, but as you probably understand, a lot of people think their full retirement age when they would get 100% of their benefit is 65 because they equate that with Medicare. But the most you get is not until 70. So there's a lot of decision making that can allow you to optimize that income.
Yeah, Martha, how do you feel about factoring in healthcare, or let's say health span? I'm going to use somebody else's language. Health span of a couple when timing when they take retirement, or when That's a really good question, Paul, because and we consider maximum life expectancy. So we work with our clients to really zero in on, you want to plan for the maximum age you can live. You don't want to run out of money from any of your sources. That longevity risk is what you're trying to, watch out for. And so the analyses we provide takes into account, it can look at, it can examine many different combinations of life expectancy for couples. And it's not average. You don't want to underestimate your life expectancy. You may not die when you think you're going to die. So, and if I die, how long do I plan to stay dead? Yes.
Yeah.
You're right, Martha.
A lot of people, they want a break even. We're struggling with this on our software because, you see those charts where if I start at 62, I'm going to get this for this long. If I start at 70, it'll be this. But that's not really an accurate decision-making point for Social Security. That's only one person, one lifetime. For couples, there's so much more involved. And I haven't even mentioned, couples with a younger spouse. There are people where one spouse is maybe 10 years younger and they may have minor children when they retire. So there are so many personal rules and strategies that affect that decision.
Yeah, Martha, I know a few people in that category. Thankfully not me. Thankfully not me.
So you mentioned longevity risk, which is definitely a topic that comes up on many of our episodes. How do you view this? How do you explain that to to individuals or couples who are in the midst of retiring, and explaining that whole longevity risk and that longevity aspect? Because you just mentioned that a return on investment is one way to look at it, but that's not necessarily the dynamic here. There's an unknown element. How do you deal with that, and how do you explain that to your clients and other retirees?
Well, it's all about showing them the numbers, and that's one of the aspects that I love so much. I'm such a number person and such a problem solver, and there is nothing more satisfying than helping people make this large financial decision. With the software and the analyses and the charts and tables our software creates, we can show them. They can ask us any question. What if I live this long and my spouse dies at this age? What does that look like? We can show them the difference in lifetime amount, the difference in annual and monthly amount, and those comparisons, then they're able to make that decision. Is this worth it to me? Is it worth it to wait? So I feel like the visual and the review of the output from the analysis is what really, really brings that home, because they can see it in dollars, in today's dollars. And they can ask themselves, how much does that matter to me? Is it worth it?
Yeah, we as an industry, Martha, are always kind of focused on allowing people to delay retirement. Have you ever recommended to file early? Maybe you could tell us a story or two if you've done that.
Yes, there are often. That's a really good question. There are many, many people who need to file early. They are not able to keep working. They may have real health issues that do indicate a shorter lifespan. So that's why we talk about making the optimal decision. It's not all about maximizing your lifetime income. It's making the optimal decision for your circumstances. So I don't know that I've ever recommended it, but it's all about understanding your personal circumstances. Don't just claim early because your neighbor, your cousin, people said, take the money, invest it. You can get more on your returns if you take the money and invest it. I mean, become educated and know what your personal rules and options are. I think I just read yesterday that over half of retirees collect before their full retirement age, which is 66 to 67. And I think a quarter of men collect at 62. Of that 50%, a quarter of the men collect at 62, and about a third of the women collect at 62. Now that's changing. It's as people become more and more aware, they're waiting, but still only, I think, 5% of men and 7% of women actually wait till 70. But many can't. Many can't afford to wait. So
those are really interesting stats. So, we've got a society, I don't know, Bruno, collectively making the optimally bad decision. Martha, I mean, what percent do you think are correctly making that early option to make an early decision? What percent just don't understand, and what percent just got bad advice?
I think the majority. I mean, there's statistics that show that 96% of retirees have not made the optimal claiming decision. Only about 4% have, meaning that they're leaving money on the table, an average of over $110,000 per household over their lifetimes. So that's one of my biggest passions, is to get the word out there that there is help to be had for this. We not only train advisors to help their clients, but we also have in-house RSSAs to do analyses, and it's so much worth your time and effort to reach out and find someone who's educated on Social Security to help you.
That makes perfect sense. And that gets me to my kind of next topic, which is very, very current, is inflation. And I think that a lot of a lot of the headlines are around inflation, and insurance carriers are a little shy of offering any lifetime income that is inflation protected or that has some inflation feature, which leads us to, as individuals, probably the only lever or mechanism that we or option available is Social Security. How do you view this? How do you address this? And how do you strategize this for individuals?
Well, you're so correct. It is really one of the few that is still inflation adjusted, and there's the good and the bad side to that. I mean, as we just saw last week, the new upcoming cost of living adjustment is 8.7%, but that means inflation is going up, and there are those that don't feel the way that cost of living adjustment is calculated accurately reflects the cost of retirees, but given all of that, it's still better than nothing. And I will take advantage of that question, Bruno, to make a clarification that people misunderstand about that cost of living adjustment. That was released last week, and it will start applying to individuals' benefits in January of 2023. Now, that does not mean you should race to start collecting so you won't miss out on it. In reality, once you turn 62, the cost of living adjustment is applied to your base benefit every year, whether you are collecting or not. So don't use that desperate, and I'm going to take advantage and get that 8.7%. You will get that eventually by waiting as well as collecting now.
So it's interesting. At least the last, I think, I don't know, Martha, you're the expert on that. I think the last 5 or 10 years of CPI adjustments have been related to or driven, I believe, by rising healthcare costs, which is going to really hit seniors, right? So, and immediately, you get a 1 or 2% increase. Your Medicare premiums went up the same. Okay, what did it really matter? This time it sounds like Medicare premiums are going to stay flat because inflation's hitting other parts of the economy. Do you think this is going to wash out as still neutral for seniors, or do you think it'll actually will be a little bit of a benefit here?
Oh, I think most retirees are going to see this. It's quite significant, over the last 40 years. I mean, when I've been working in this field for about 12 years, and there were several years of zero cost of living adjustment. But to that topic specifically, last year, the Medicare premiums went up so high, and that was basically based on one individual drug that it wasn't calculated quite correctly. This year, the premium is going down, and I've never heard of that happening before. So not only are retirees getting that cost of living adjustment from Social Security, their Medicare premiums are usually deducted from their Social Security benefits. So that's going to increase too, because it went down instead of up this year. But yes, the healthcare costs, that's the biggest unknown for retirees. And that's the scariest topic to deal with. So whatever you can do to get that guaranteed income. I mean, we look at all kinds of different avenues for that. You mentioned real estate, Paul, and we're partnered with the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association because I have a good friend, and those two go hand in hand. Reverse mortgages or home equity conversion mortgages are another topic that retirees should be educated on. It could be a wonderful option for many people with the rising costs and the equity that many people have in their homes. And there's a lot of ways to use that equity.
No, thank you. That makes perfect sense. And I think on that note, on the whole, healthcare expenses, I think we all agree it's a major unknown for retirees. I really want to underscore one of the things you just said in your answer, was that because of that unknown, you want to maximize that lifetime income, or that income from Social Security, which is sometimes other advisors or other professionals would use lifetime income the other way around, where it would say, lifetime income is not liquid, therefore it's not good for healthcare. But I really like the way you portrait it, and you put it out there, is, the more income you have, the more you can deal with healthcare expenses, and not just that one healthcare expense, but healthcare expenses through the rest of your life. And on top of that, having more income allows you to rely less on the rest of your portfolio, to, so that when that catastrophe happens, you're in a better position to deal with it. Do you want to expand a little more on, the value on income within that healthcare expense context?
Yes, it's so critical. I think that's most retirees' biggest fear, and it's what our clients worry about so much. And so, like you just stated, anything you can do to maximize that monthly stream of income. I mean, remember, we were just talking about, it's like an annuity. There are people planning for retirement should be looking for all avenues that they can use for that. Many people don't have long-term care. Medicare doesn't cover that, and it's just a horrible thought to reach the end of our years and be faced with extremely high costs, and to be thinking ahead, where can I turn if I need that at that time? And that's why I kind of veered off track and mentioned the home equity conversion mortgages, because there are ways to plan for these really extraordinary health, and medical costs that could hit us later. It's very scary.
Yeah, I was at a risk management meeting offsite yesterday. It was interesting. I don't know. There's a downer of a meeting, Bruno. This is it. We're living in some very unique times, and I may butcher the statistics, but something like, I think this is one of 3 years in the last 100 or 100 plus where stocks, equities, now 100. I'm trying to think. What was stock? I guess it was a stock market 100 years ago. Sure. This is like one of the 3 years where both stocks and bonds have gone down at the same time. Wait a second. We've been telling our clients everything about your retirement planning. Most of it comes down to not stocks. It comes down to your asset allocation, 70 versus 70, 30, 60, 40. What is it? That's the big, Paul. That's the biggest decision you can make. Arguably, one camp can say, look, inflation is today we're experiencing, it's caused by two unique exogenous events. We had this worldwide pandemic, and now we've got this crazy country, trying to bomb a country out of existence, and shut down the oil fields. There's another camp that says, the supply chain crisis is big. We have a lot of demographic changes across the world where people are retiring out of critical positions, and inflation is going to continue. At what point, Martha, do you start to reset the calculus behind those optimizational factors? Like, does this have to persist 6 months, 12 months, 18 months before you say, I did these plans for you, Bruno, but let's rethink your plan?
Well, that's a really good question. And again, that comes back to the ability to do these analyses. As I mentioned, if we work with people in their 50s to plan the best Social Security and tax strategy, withdrawal strategies, and then we can reevaluate that very, very easily along the way until they reach whatever age it is they're going to start collecting. And so an advisor out there who takes this really holistic, comprehensive view for retirement planning, it's not a one-time deal. It's something you do at least annually, if not more, given today's circumstances. And you're able to pivot and, and go in a slightly different direction if you need to. So it's the financial professionals out there who understand how complicated retirement financial planning is and are taking this on are those who can really, really help their clients and give them that peace of mind, I think, and stay with them, along the way. It's not a one-shot deal.
As opposed to Social Security election, that is a one-shot deal, and hence the value of your services. Where you have to you have one chance. You have to think about all of those things through before you elect. How do you go about explaining that dynamic to your clients?
Well, there's actually two options, Bruno, where if someone, and this is particularly pertinent given the last couple of years and the pandemic and the shift in everyone's employment and how we're all working now. And so when you first claim and you start collecting, you have 12 months to withdraw that application. If something changes or you change your mind, you pay back what you've received, but without any interest. And then you get the slate is wiped clean. You can claim later at any time. I have a really good story about that I'll share, but I want to touch on the second option that people don't know is if you claimed early between 62 and your full retirement age, and you reach your full retirement age, you can voluntarily ask the Social Security Administration to suspend your benefit, and it will start growing from those delayed retirement credits. We haven't gotten into many of the details about Social Security, but our benefits increase every month we wait to claim, and from full retirement age to 70, that totals up to 8% a year. So someone who claimed at 62 suspends at their full retirement age and is able financially to do that, they can potentially get a 32 to 24% increase in their benefit by waiting to collect again till 70. I have a group of women that I'm friends with, and one of them had started collecting. She heard me talking about all the nuances of spousal, and there was a rule that's being phased out, but she met the age requirement for that rule, and she withdrew her application. She was collecting on her own benefit, paid back the money that she had collected, and was able to collect a spousal benefit based on her husband's earnings for 4 years. And due to a combination of waiting and the delayed credit and the work that she's doing now, she has her own toffee business. Her benefit's going to increase threefold from what she was getting when she first started. So those are the kind of things that are just so misunderstood and so hidden that we try to help people with.
Well, I have two last questions for you, and one from an advisor perspective, one from a I guess, a client perspective. From an advisor perspective, you've got an interesting practice, Martha. So you've got a podcast, right? You've got an association. You do a lot of training. You have a team behind you. If I'm trying to really focus on being a Social Security expert in this field, what should I do to be successful over the next 5 years?
Well, we're trying to make that as easy as possible for our analysts, because many people go through our course, they become an RSSA, but like I was saying to Bruno before, it's a full-time effort to stay up on this topic and to know all the nuances and be doing the analyses. So we offer a back office support, not only to our analysts, but to any financial professional out there who wants help with their client's Social Security cases. And we do that. We partner with advisors in any way that makes the most sense financially, and, just if they want us to actually be working with the client individually, if they want to be involved or not. So, and then for our analysts who are registered members, the annual fee includes our software, it includes resources, continuing education, marketing tools, the podcasts, so just we're trying to make it a one-stop shop for anyone, advisors and clients who want, or consumers, I should say, anybody who needs help with Social Security.
Okay, and then just sort of gut advice, okay, to people who, like my wife, open the 401k statement and say, "What happened? Call Fidelity. find out what went wrong here."
That's well, don't panic. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm right there with her. I mean, I'm grateful for the understanding I have of the options I have personally, but it just makes me even more desperate to spread the word of making the most of your Social Security, looking at other financial instruments you could use. Like we said, my fallback is the equity in my home. I mean, I'm in California, and I know that years from now, if I need that, I'll have that. So that gives me comfort. Being educated and informed takes away a lot of the anxiety. We have such a sense of relief and appreciation, and just, people know what they're going to collect from Social Security. They can move on from there. It's a very, very powerful decision that they're making and that we're helping them with.
Yeah. Hey, Bruno, any final thoughts, final questions?
No, and other than thank you. I think the entire aspect on income, and Paul, you mentioned it. I'm like, oh, my wife's opening my 401k statement. What's going on here? And how much you have, how much you're worth. That's one side of the story. How much income does that generate? That's an aspect as, if not more important than how much you have, and how do you juggle the two are extremely important. So definitely appreciate the discussion, Martha.
Yeah, and Martha, we'll put in the show notes, links and stuff. But where should people want to reach out to you? Advisors want to reach out to learn more about your offering or follow you? What's the best way?
Well, I'll give you 3 emails. If you want to reach out to me personally, it's martha@narssa.org, NARSSA.org. And then for information on our course, that's simply info@rssa.com. And for help with client cases, that's help@rssa.com. So You can go to NARSSA.org or RSSA.com and learn a lot more. There's a lot of resources on there, frequently asked questions. Just reach out to us for whatever questions or information you need.
Okay, excellent. Look in the notes. We'll have the links to click on. Bruno, thank you. Martha, thanks so much. Enjoyed being on your show, and thank you for coming and joining us. And again, thank our listeners for all your support and feedback. Keep it coming, and join us again next week for another episode of That Annuity Show. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend us on iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information at thatannuityshow.com.